The battlefield was silent now, but the smell of smoke and blood still filled the air. Broken machines lay across the ground, and the sky was painted with dark clouds. A human soldier named Daniel walked slowly through the ruins, his rifle hanging low. He was tired, his armor scratched, and his heart heavy with the weight of war. Then he saw movement between the shadows of broken walls. At first he thought it was another enemy, ready to attack. His finger tightened on the trigger, but then he froze. It was not a soldier. It was not a fighter. It was a girl. Her skin was pale silver and her eyes glowed faintly like the stars. Her body was thin and weak, her clothes torn, her breathing uneven. She looked at him with fear, as if expecting him to kill her. But she did not raise a weapon. She did not even try to run. Daniel's training told him to finish her quickly, but something in her eyes stopped him. They were not the eyes of an enemy. They were the eyes of someone who had suffered. Slowly, he lowered his rifle. The girl flinched as if she had never expected mercy. Daniel reached into his pack and pulled out a small bottle of water. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. For a long moment, the girl just stared at it. Her thin fingers trembled, her lips cracked and dry. Finally, with great effort, she crawled forward and took the bottle. She drank, and a soft sound escaped her throat, almost like a sob. Daniel watched carefully, unsure if he had just made a mistake. Helping an alien could mean betrayal of his own people. If others found out, he would be punished, maybe executed. But still, he could not stop himself. The girl looked at him again, this time with something new in her eyes, not only fear but also gratitude. She tried to speak, her voice weak and broken. "Why, you help me," she whispered. Daniel said nothing at first. He did not even know why. Maybe because she looked so helpless. Maybe because he was tired of endless killing. "I don't know," he finally answered, his voice rough. "I just did." The girl blinked as if she did not understand. Then slowly she gave a small nod. Her hands shook as she held the bottle close to her chest. Her body curled up as if protecting a treasure. Daniel noticed her wounds again. Cuts and burns covered her arms, but they were not bleeding anymore. Strangely, the skin around them seemed to close faster than normal. He narrowed his eyes, wondering what kind of creature she really was. The girl whispered again, her voice barely a breath. "I repay gift." Her words were broken, but her meaning was clear. She promised something, though Daniel had no idea what. Night began to fall over the battlefield. The ruins turned dark and the wind grew colder. Daniel knew he should leave, return to his unit, but his feet would not move. He stood there, staring at the weak alien girl who had taken his gift. Her body was fragile, but her eyes still glowed with a strange light, and deep inside, Daniel felt something he could not explain. She was hiding something, a secret that might change everything. As the stars appeared above the broken earth, Daniel realized this meeting was not an accident. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that could decide the future of both humanity and the stars. The night was long and cold, and Daniel could not sleep. He sat near the ruins of a burned wall, his rifle close by. The alien girl lay a few steps away, curled like a fragile bird. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight, making her look unreal. Daniel kept asking himself why he had helped her. He was a soldier trained to fight, not to show mercy. But when he saw her eyes, weak and afraid, he could not pull the trigger. Now he wondered if he had made a mistake that could cost him everything. The girl stirred, her body trembling as if trapped in a nightmare. She whispered in her sleep, strange words in a broken language. Her voice carried a rhythm, almost like a code. Daniel leaned closer, trying to catch the meaning. Suddenly her eyes opened, glowing softly in the dark. She gasped and pulled away as if afraid he had heard too much. For a moment, silence filled the ruins, heavy and sharp. Then she looked at the empty bottle he had given her, holding it close. Her lips moved, struggling to form human words. "Gift accepted," she whispered, her voice weak but steady. Daniel blinked, surprised she could even speak his language. He had heard rumors that some aliens could copy words, but this felt different. "You understand me," he said carefully. The girl nodded, though her movements were slow and uncertain. "Not all," she admitted, her tone broken but clear. Her eyes locked on his with strange intensity. Daniel felt uneasy, as if she was studying him. Her weak frame suggested fragility, but her gaze told another story. There was something hidden inside her, something she was not ready to reveal. He sensed it, though he did not yet know what it meant. "Why are you here?" Daniel asked quietly. The girl did not answer. Her eyes dropped to the ground. Instead, she pressed a trembling hand against her chest. "I repay. Gift," she said again, voice filled with strange determination. Daniel frowned, confused. Repay? How could she repay him, when she had nothing but broken clothes and fragile bones? Her body was too weak to fight, too thin to survive on her own, and yet she spoke with a certainty that unsettled him. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the ruins. The distant thrum of engines, heavy and mechanical. Daniel tensed, gripping his rifle, scanning the horizon. The girl flinched, her whole body shivering. At the sound, "They search," she whispered, fear in her glowing eyes. Daniel's blood ran cold. Search? Who was searching? Humans? Or her own kind? He crouched low, motioning for her to stay quiet. The sound faded after a while, leaving silence once more. But the fear in her eyes did not fade. She hugged the empty bottle tighter as if it was a lifeline. And Daniel realized she was hiding from her own people. The thought struck him like a blade. Why would an alien fear her own kind, unless she carried something dangerous, something valuable, something worth hunting? The girl looked at him again, her voice soft but sharp. "Danger. Near. You help me. I help you." Her words were broken, but her meaning was clear. She offered him a promise, though Daniel was not sure if it was salvation or a trap. For the first time since the war began, Daniel felt caught between duty and instinct. He should have reported her, should have ended this before it grew worse. But the strange glow in her eyes kept him frozen. It was not weakness he saw. It was a hidden fire. The night deepened and silence returned. But Daniel knew this fragile moment would not last. The girl had accepted his gift, but in doing so she had bound herself to him. And somewhere in the darkness, enemies moved closer, searching for her secret. Morning light touched the broken battlefield. Daniel rose from the ground, his armor cold and heavy. The alien girl sat quietly nearby, her silver skin shining faintly in the weak sun. She looked fragile, but her eyes never stopped moving, scanning the ruins like a watchful hawk. Daniel gave her a piece of dry ration bread. She held it carefully as if it were something precious. Her thin fingers shook, but she managed to eat, slowly, silently. Every small bite looked painful, but her strength seemed to return little by little. Daniel studied her closely, searching for answers. She was not like the enemies he had fought before. Those had been strong, armored, merciless. But this girl looked more like a survivor than a warrior. Yet something was wrong. Her wounds from last night, deep cuts and burns, were almost gone. He had seen them clearly before. Torn skin and bruises across her arms. Now only faint marks remained, like old scars healing in fast motion. Daniel's breath caught. No human could heal like that, not even with the best medicine. What was she, really? The girl noticed his stare. She lowered her eyes and pulled her. Torn clothes tighter around her arms she did not want him to see. Her silence told him she was hiding something. Later, as Daniel checked his broken communicator, a strange thing happened. The small device flickered, its dead screen glowing for a second. It had not worked for days, its battery drained. But when the girl walked closer, the screen lit up weakly. Daniel froze. He looked at the girl, then at the device. When she stepped back, the light faded. When she came near again, it returned, stronger than before. Daniel's heart pounded. Machines reacted to her, not by accident, but by some kind of force inside her. She was connected to energy in a way he could not explain. The girl looked at him, noticing his fear. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "No, harm. Not danger," she whispered. But her eyes betrayed the truth. She was hiding more than she admitted. Daniel wanted to believe her, but doubt burned inside him. If his people found out about her strange ability, they would not spare her. They would use her, break her, or destroy her. And maybe they would do the same to him for protecting her. The ruins around them creaked as the wind blew through broken metal. Daniel felt exposed, like eyes were watching from the shadows. He tightened. His grip on his rifle, every sound made him tense, every shadow looked like an enemy. The girl placed her hand on the ground. For a moment, the dust and pebbles around her fingers trembled. Daniel stepped back in shock. "Stop that," he hissed, fear in his voice. She pulled her hand away quickly, shaking her head. Her lips moved, struggling to explain. "Control, not easy," she said, her broken voice full of sorrow. "Hide. Always hide." Daniel stared at her, the truth beginning to form in his mind. She was not weak, not helpless. She was something his people had never seen before, something powerful, something dangerous. And yet she was hunted, not by humans alone, but by her own kind. Why would they chase someone so fragile, unless they feared what she carried inside? The thought filled him with unease. The sun climbed higher, but the ruins stayed cold. Daniel felt the weight of a choice pressing down on him. He could walk away and report her, or he could stay and uncover the secret she tried so hard to hide. The girl's glowing eyes met his once again. She whispered one word, her voice trembling like a broken song. "Trust." Daniel stood frozen, torn between fear and curiosity. He knew the signs were clear. She was no ordinary alien, and whatever secret she carried could change the war forever. The silence of morning did not last long. From far away, the sound of engines echoed across the ruins. Daniel froze, his instincts sharp. The girl's glowing eyes widened with fear. "Search, they come," she whispered. Clutching the empty bottle close, her whole body trembled, and Daniel knew she was telling the truth. Human patrols were sweeping the area, hunting for survivors and spies. If they found her, it would be over. Daniel cursed under his breath. He grabbed his rifle and looked at her. She was too weak to run fast, too fragile to survive the soldiers' harsh hands. And yet, leaving her behind felt impossible. "Move," he ordered in a low voice. The girl nodded quickly, trusting him. Without question, they slipped into the shadows of broken buildings, their footsteps soft against the cracked ground. The engines grew louder, closer. Voices shouted through radios, sharp and commanding. "Search every corner, report any strange movement," a soldier's voice boomed. Daniel's pulse quickened. He had heard that tone many times before. He pushed the girl down into an old tunnel, half buried by rubble. The air smelled of rust and dust, the darkness pressing in on them. The girl's breathing was fast, too loud. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips, urging silence. Boots crunched above them, shadows moved through the cracks. Light beams from scanners swept across the ruins. One beam paused near their hiding place. Daniel held his breath, finger ready on the trigger. The girl closed her eyes, her trembling hands pressed to her chest. Daniel feared she would make a sound, give them away. But instead, something strange happened. The scanner light flickered, dimmed, and then shifted away. The soldiers above muttered in confusion. "Scanner glitch again? These ruins mess with everything," one grumbled. They moved on, their boots fading slowly. Daniel stared at the girl in shock, realizing she had done something. She opened her eyes, glowing faintly in the dark. "Safe now," she whispered weakly. Daniel wanted to ask how, but there was no time. The patrol was still near, and more soldiers were coming. He led her deeper into the tunnel. The ground sloped downward, the air colder. Rats skittered past, broken. Pipes' water dripped steadily from above. The girl followed silently, her eyes scanning the shadows. Suddenly a shout echoed from the entrance. "They're down here," a soldier yelled. Daniel's heart pounded. They had been discovered. He raised his rifle, motioning for the girl to stay behind him. Flashlights cut through the dark. Boots thudded against stone. Gunmetal glinted as soldiers pushed inside. Daniel fired a warning shot. The tunnel filled with thunder. The girl covered her ears, trembling. The soldiers returned fire. Bullets sparking off the walls. Dust rained down, the tunnel shaking. Daniel pulled the girl behind a heavy slab of concrete. His ammo was limited, and he knew they could not fight long. The girl's eyes glowed brighter in the dark. "Help, I help," she whispered. Daniel grabbed her arm, his voice harsh. "Not now, stay quiet." But the ground beneath them suddenly pulsed with energy. The tunnel lights flickered to life, one by one. The soldiers hesitated. Confused by the sudden glow, Daniel turned, stunned, realizing it was her again. The girl's face twisted with effort, sweat on her skin. Metal pipes rattled, the air hummed. A burst of static roared through the soldiers' radios, blinding them. With noise, they shouted in panic, retreating back toward the surface. Silence fell again, heavy and sharp. Daniel stared at her, his breath uneven. "You did that?" he whispered, disbelief in his voice. The girl only nodded, her body shaking from the strain. For a moment, they sat in the dark, both shaken. The soldiers would be back, stronger and angrier. The chase was not over. It had only begun. And now Daniel knew the truth. The weak alien girl was far from powerless. The tunnel grew quiet again after the soldiers left. Daniel leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The girl sat close by, her silver skin pale in the faint light. She looked exhausted, her body trembling as, if every bone ached, Daniel wanted to ask her about the strange power she used, but her eyes were closed, her head resting weakly against the stone. She looked fragile. Too fragile for the danger they faced. And yet, she had just saved them both. "Who? Are you really?" Daniel whispered, his voice low. The girl did not answer. Her lips slightly parted as she slipped into sleep. Her breathing was uneven, her face tight with hidden strain. Daniel sighed and stayed alert, guarding her in the silence. Hours passed slowly in the dark. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing like a slow clock. Daniel fought the weight of sleep, but his body gave in for a moment. His eyes closed. Just for a short while, he woke to a sound that froze his blood. The girl was speaking, but not in human words. Her voice was soft yet sharp, like layers of sound woven together. It was not speech. It was code. Daniel crouched closer, listening carefully. The sounds she made carried rhythm, almost like signals. He had heard something like it before on intercepted enemy channels, the same broken codes aliens used to guide their war machines. His hand gripped his rifle tightly. Was she a spy, sending messages to her kind? Or was she dreaming, speaking secrets she could not control? Daniel's heart raced with doubt. The girl's eyes snapped open suddenly, glowing bright in the dark. She gasped, her voice cutting off mid-code. Daniel stepped back, his rifle half raised, her face twisted with fear when she saw his expression. "No, not spy," she whispered quickly. Her voice shook, desperate for him to believe. Daniel's jaw clenched, the echo of her strange voice still in his mind. "Then what was that?" he demanded, his tone sharp. The girl lowered her head, ashamed. "Memory. Too strong," she said softly. "Voice come when sleep." She placed her hand on her chest, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow. Daniel's grip on the rifle loosened slightly. He wanted to believe her, but the fear remained. If the patrols picked up those signals, they would come back, in greater numbers. The danger was growing with every passing moment. "Why are they hunting you?" Daniel asked, his voice quieter this time. The girl hesitated, her lips trembling. "Because I carry secret they fear," she whispered. Her words were heavy, carrying more weight than her small frame. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes sharp. "What secret?" he pressed. She shook her head, her voice weak but firm. "Not yet. If you know, you die." The air between them grew colder, heavier. Daniel felt anger rise, but also curiosity. She was more than a weak girl, more than a lost alien. She was a key to something greater, something dangerous. Her eyes closed again, her body giving in to exhaustion. Daniel watched her carefully, his mind restless. He could not decide if she was a friend or a hidden enemy. But one thing was clear. She was hiding power that could change the war. The distant sound of engines returned, faint but steady. Daniel gritted his teeth, their time was running out. The girl stirred again, her voice faint but urgent. "Trust me, or I'll fall," she whispered before sleep claimed her. Daniel stared at her, his mind torn between doubt and belief. The secret voice he had heard still echoed in his ears. And deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The girl's hidden truth was far bigger than anything he imagined. The night gave way to a dull gray morning. Daniel woke with stiff muscles, his back pressed against the tunnel wall. The girl was still asleep beside him, her breathing shallow, her silver skin pale. But her glow had dimmed, like a fading light hidden under shadows. Daniel listened carefully. The ruins above were too quiet. The silence felt wrong, heavy like the air was waiting. He crawled upward and peeked through a crack in the rubble. The sky above was filled with dark shapes. Alien ships, sleek and sharp, floated in the distance. Their engines rumbled low, vibrating through the ground. Daniel's throat tightened. He knew that sound well. The enemy had returned, stronger than before. He hurried back to the girl, shaking her gently. "Wake up," he whispered urgently. Her eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the gloom. When she heard the distant engines, fear spread across her face. "No, not here," she breathed, clutching at her chest. "They search for me?" Her voice trembled, and Daniel felt his stomach twist. If her kind had returned to this battlefield, they weren't looking for humans. Daniel knelt beside her, his voice sharp. Why would they chase their own? The girl turned away, her thin shoulders shaking. "They fear what I know," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. Before Daniel could ask more, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling, cracks spread across the stone, a deep roar thundered above them. Alien machines were moving across the ruins, searching. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet. "We have to move," he said, his tone hard. The girl nodded weakly, her legs trembling as she followed him deeper into the tunnel. Every step echoed in the silence. Every breath sounded too loud. Then a beam of blue light cut through the cracks above. It swept across the tunnel walls, humming with power. Daniel shoved the girl against the stone, covering her with his body. The beam passed, leaving a burning smell behind. Her eyes were wide with terror, her voice a broken whisper. "They not stop until I gone." Daniel looked at her, anger rising in his chest. "What are you hiding that makes them hunt you like this?" She shook her head, tears glimmering in her glowing eyes. "Secret. Only I carry. If they find, all end." Daniel clenched his fists, her words digging into him like knives. She was not weak. She was dangerous to her own people. The tunnel trembled again, louder this time. Metal claws scraped against stone as alien drones crawled inside. Their red sensors flickered, scanning the dark. Daniel raised his rifle, his jaw tight with determination. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The girl pressed her back against the wall, her eyes glowing brighter in fear. The drones crept closer, their sharp legs clicking like blades. Daniel fired, the blast echoing through the tunnel. One drone fell, sparks flying, but two more pushed forward. The girl gasped, her trembling, hands pressed to the wall. The air vibrated, machines groaned. Suddenly, the lights inside the drones flickered violently. They froze, their sensors flashing red. Then without warning they collapsed, lifeless metal on the ground. Daniel turned, stunned, his rifle still raised. The girl's eyes dimmed as her body swayed with exhaustion. "You stopped them," Daniel said, his voice low. The girl nodded weakly, her breath heavy. "But they know now," she whispered. "They know where we are." Daniel's blood ran cold. More drones would come, and maybe soldiers too. The girl's secret was pulling danger closer with every heartbeat. The enemy had returned, and they would not leave until they found her. The sound of the fallen drone still echoed in Daniel's ears. Their lifeless shells smoked on the tunnel floor, silent and broken. The girl leaned against the wall, her silver skin pale and her glow faint. Her strength was fading, yet her eyes still held that hidden fire. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle. The enemy had returned, and more would follow. But another fear crawled inside him. His own people were near too, searching these ruins. He had not sent a signal in hours, maybe longer. By now, command would be suspicious. If they found him with her, they would not ask questions. They would shoot first and bury him as a traitor. The girl's voice broke the silence. "You fear your kind," she whispered, her breath unsteady. Daniel did not answer, but his silence was enough. She nodded slowly, as if she already knew. "They not trust me," she said. "They kill me before I speak." Her words were heavy, sharp, and Daniel knew she was right. The army saw aliens only as enemies, nothing more. Boots suddenly echoed above the tunnel. Daniel's stomach tightened. Human voices cut through the air. "Check below. Movement was detected," a soldier shouted. Daniel cursed under his breath. The patrol had found them. The girl's glowing eyes widened, her thin body tense with fear. Daniel faced a choice sharper than any blade. If he stepped out and revealed her, he might live. If he stayed with her, he risked being branded a traitor. The rubble above cracked open. Light spilled into the tunnel. Voices grew closer, weapons clinking. Daniel raised his rifle, aiming at the shadow of men he once called brothers. His heart pounded, the choice burning inside him. The girl touched his arm gently, her voice trembling. "Trust me," she whispered. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of life and death. Daniel's chest tightened, torn between duty and instinct. The soldiers dropped into the tunnel, their flashlights slicing through the dark. Their eyes locked on the girl instantly. "Alien!" one of them barked, raising his weapon. Daniel stepped forward, blocking their aim. "Stand down," he shouted, his rifle pointed at them now. The soldiers froze in shock, staring at him. "Daniel, what are you doing?" one hissed. "She's the enemy, move aside." Daniel's voice shook, but his stance held firm. "She's not what you think," he said. "She's different, she can help us." But his words sounded weak against the roar of war. The soldiers' eyes hardened. "You've lost your mind, she's controlling you," one growled. "She's using you, Daniel, step away now." Their rifles clicked, ready to fire. The girl's body trembled behind him. She whispered, in her broken voice, "If they kill me, war never end." Daniel's throat went dry, the weight of her words pressing into him. He looked at his brothers in arms, their faces filled with suspicion. He looked at the girl, her glowing eyes begging for trust. One path led to safety, the other to betrayal, but only one felt like the truth. Daniel took a deep breath, his finger rested on the trigger, his voice firm. "No," he said, his tone cutting through the dark. "She stays with me." The soldiers cursed, their anger sharp and bitter. The air filled with tension, weapons raised. Daniel stood between two worlds, his people and the fragile girl with a secret. And he knew there was no turning back. The tunnel was heavy with silence. Daniel stood firm, his rifle raised between his own people and the girl. The soldiers glared at him, their weapons aimed, their voices sharp with anger. "Step aside, Daniel," one shouted, "or we will put you down with her." The girl's body trembled, but her eyes glowed brighter. She whispered softly, "They fear what I hold." Daniel turned to her, his voice urgent. "What do you mean? What are you hiding?" Her thin hands pressed against her chest. Her voice cracked, but her words carried. "Wait, I carry code weapon to end war," she whispered. Her breath shook as if the truth itself was painful to speak. Daniel's eyes widened. A code, something inside her, powerful enough to stop the enemy. It was no wonder her kind hunted her. If she had such knowledge, she was a danger to them all. The soldiers shouted again, their voices filled with rage. "She's lying, Daniel. She's tricking you. She'll wipe us out the moment you turn your back." Their rifles inched closer, their patience gone. The girl closed her eyes, her voice faint but steady. "I can shut down their war machines, but cost is mine." Her glow spread faintly across the tunnel. Metal pipes hummed. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel's breath caught. He could feel the air vibrating, alive with unseen energy. The soldiers shifted nervously, their eyes darting. To the glowing girl. "What is she doing?" one whispered, fear cutting into his anger. Daniel looked at her, torn between belief and fear. Her power was real. He had seen it before. But now it surged stronger, heavier, as if a storm hid within her body. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Stop, you'll burn yourself out," he warned. Her lips trembled into a weak smile. "Better me than all," she whispered. Her body shook, but her voice was filled with strange courage. The soldiers panicked. One fired a shot. The bullet cracked against the wall near her head. Daniel roared, spinning, his rifle toward them. "Stand down," he bellowed, rage filling his chest. The girl's glow expanded suddenly, flooding the tunnel with white light. The soldiers staggered back, shielding their eyes. Machines above the tunnel groaned, their engines stuttering. The earth itself seemed to shiver under the force. Daniel's heart pounded. He could feel her power tearing through the ground, not wild, not random. It was directed, sharp. Her voice rose like a song, broken yet powerful. The soldiers fell silent, fear washing over them. They lowered their weapons, eyes wide with disbelief. Daniel turned to the girl, his throat dry. "You really can stop them," he whispered. She opened her eyes. Faint light, still glowing inside, her body shook violently, her breath shallow. "Yes, but if I use all, I die," she said softly. Her words cut through Daniel like a blade. The soldiers looked at him, their fear replaced by confusion. "She's dangerous," one muttered. "But she might be our only chance." The other nodded, his voice uneasy. "If she can stop their machines, maybe she's worth the risk." Daniel lowered his rifle slowly. He saw the truth written in her glowing eyes. She was not lying. She was not weak. She was a weapon hidden in fragile skin. But she was also a girl, trembling, broken, and hunted. Her power was real, but it came at a terrible price. Daniel clenched his jaw, his mind heavy with choice. He would not let her sacrifice herself alone. The sound of enemy engines roared closer above. Time was running out. The final decision was drawing near. And in that moment, Daniel knew one thing for certain. The fate of humanity now rested in the hands of the alien girl he had once thought weak. The ground shook above the tunnel. Engines roared like thunder and heavy footsteps rattled the earth. Alien machines were sweeping across the ruins, hunting with purpose. The enemy had found the place, and there was no more time. Daniel gripped, his rifle, his heart pounding. The girl leaned against the wall, her glow faint but steady. Her secret was out now. Even the soldiers had seen it. She carried power that could end the war, but it was killing her slowly. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. One finally said, "We need to move, before they bury us alive." Daniel nodded, but his eyes stayed on the girl. She was fragile, yet she was their only chance. The tunnel walls cracked, dust rained down, a booming voice echoed outside in the alien tongue. Daniel could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. They were calling for her, demanding her surrender. The girl's body shook, fear in her glowing eyes. "No escape, unless far from here," she whispered. Her voice was weak, but her will was firm. Daniel touched her shoulder, steadying her. "We're not leaving you behind," he said. Her lips parted, almost as if to argue. But then she gave a small nod. Her trust in him was quiet but unshakable. The soldiers led the way through a side passage. The tunnel twisted, filled with shadows and dripping water. Every sound made Daniel tense. Every echo felt like an enemy behind them. The girl stumbled once, but Daniel caught her before she fell. Then the roar of engines grew louder. Closer, a blue beam sliced through the rubble, flooding the tunnel with harsh light. Alien drones poured in, their sharp legs clattering like knives. Their red sensors locked onto the group instantly. "Run!" Daniel shouted, firing into the dark. Bullets sparked against metal, drones screeched as they fell. But more crawled forward, endless, relentless. The soldiers cursed, their rifles blazing. The girl cried out, her voice trembling with effort. Her glow surged brighter, the walls shaking with her power. The drones froze for a moment, their lights flickering. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her forward. "This way," he shouted, leading them down a collapsing shaft. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Broken machines lay scattered, human and alien wreckage alike. It was a graveyard of war, silent and eerie, but silence did not last. Engines howled above, rubble falling like rain. Alien machines crashed through the ceiling, their weapons glowing hot. The chamber filled with fire and chaos. Daniel dragged the girl behind a slab of metal. The soldiers fired, their shouts lost in the roar. The girl pressed her hands against the ground, her body trembling violently. A wave of static energy burst out, shaking the chamber. Machines sparked and screamed, some collapsing instantly. Others staggered, their weapons misfiring. The girl's voice rose in a broken chant, like code made into sound. Her body shook as if every word tore her apart. Daniel shielded her with his body, firing at any machine still moving. The soldiers fought beside him, fear mixing with awe. Even they could see she was no ordinary enemy. She was the weapon they needed, even if it destroyed her. At last, the chamber fell silent, smoke rising from broken machines. Daniel looked around, his chest heaving. The girl lay weak in his arms. Her glow dim but alive, her eyes opened, faint and tired. "Not safe yet," she whispered. Daniel nodded, gripping his rifle. The enemy would not stop, not until they claimed her. But for now, they had survived the chase. The great escape had cost them dearly, and Daniel knew this was only the beginning of the final battle. The girl's secret burned brighter than ever, and every enemy in the sky would come for her now. The underground chamber was filled with smoke. Broken machines lay scattered like fallen beasts. The soldiers coughed, brushing ash from their faces. Daniel held the alien girl in his arms, her glow faint as a dying flame. Her breaths were shallow, her body trembling, yet her eyes still shone with stubborn light. Daniel's heart ached at the sight. She looked fragile, but inside her burned a power that could save or destroy. Above them, the roar of engines grew louder. Alien ships circled the ruins, their shadows heavy against the cracked ceiling. The ground shook as more drones approached. The enemy would break through at any moment. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. One finally spoke, his voice sharp with fear. "She can't go on, Daniel. She'll get us all killed." Another added, "We should end this now before it's too late." Daniel clenched his jaw, anger rising inside him. "She's the only reason we're still alive," he growled. But doubt crawled at the edges of his mind. Her glow was fading, her strength nearly gone. The girl stirred weakly in his arms. Her voice was faint, broken but filled with will. "Take me to their core," she whispered. Her eyes locked on his, burning with desperate purpose. Daniel froze. "Their core," he repeated, his voice uneasy. The girl nodded slowly. "If I connect, I shut them all down." The soldiers cursed, shaking their heads. "She's lying. It's a trap." One spat. "She'll call them and we'll all be slaughtered," another argued. But deep down, Daniel saw no lie in her eyes. Her body was weak, but her resolve was stronger than steel. She was ready to sacrifice herself. Daniel's chest tightened, the weight of her words crushing him. If she was telling the truth, she could end the war at the cost of her life. The ceiling cracked above, light cutting through the smoke. The enemy was breaking in, seconds away from reaching them. Daniel's rifle felt heavy in his hands. He looked at the girl, then at his own soldiers torn in half. One soldier raised his gun at her. "We can't risk it, Daniel. Move aside," he ordered. Daniel's body moved before his mind. He aimed his weapon at his brother in arms. His voice cold. "No one touches her," he growled. The soldier hesitated, shock written across his face. The chamber trembled violently, dust raining down. The enemy was nearly upon them. The girl's voice cut through the chaos. "Decision, now," she whispered. Her glowing eyes searched his face, begging for an answer. Daniel's heart pounded, the final choice burning inside him. If he let her go to the alien core, she might end the war, but he might lose her forever. If he stopped, her humanity might never see peace. Both paths demanded sacrifice. He tightened his grip on his rifle, sweat dripping down his brow. Every breath felt like fire in his chest. The soldiers shouted at him, their voices angry and desperate. The girl's whisper was softer but stronger. "Trust me," she said, her words breaking. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his choice was clear. He would stand with her no matter the cost. The ceiling shattered. Alien machines poured in. Daniel raised his rifle, shielding the girl with his body. Her glow flared brighter, filling the chamber. With strange light, the final decision had been made, and there was no turning back. The chamber shook as alien machines poured in. Their claws scraped the stone, their red sensors glowing like fire. The soldiers opened fire, bullets sparking against metal. Daniel stood at the center, shielding the girl with his body. Her glow spread wider, brighter than before. The weak shimmer turned into a blazing light. Her trembling voice rose, not words, but broken code. The sound echoed like thunder, shaking the machines around them. The drones froze mid-stride, their sensors flickering wildly. Engines above roared, then stuttered. The whole battlefield trembled with unseen force. Daniel watched in awe, knowing she was connecting to something vast. The girl's body arched, pain etched across her face. Her silver skin glowed so bright it hurt to look. Daniel grabbed her shoulders, shouting over the chaos. "Stop, you'll die." Her glowing eyes met his, soft but unyielding. "If I stop, humanity dies," she whispered. Her voice cracked, but her will was unbroken. Daniel's chest tightened, his heart breaking with every word. Machines screeched as their systems collapsed. One by one they fell, their weapons silenced. The roar of alien ships above faded into eerie quiet. The war machines of her people were dying, cut from their core. The soldiers stared in shock, their weapons lowering. Some whispered prayers, others simply watched in silence. For the first time, they saw not an enemy, but a savior. Yet Daniel saw something else, her body fading with every pulse of light. Her glow dimmed, flickered, like a candle burning its last flame. She swayed in his arms, her strength gone. Daniel begged her, his voice breaking. "Don't leave me. You can't. End it like this." Her lips curved into a faint, fragile smile. "You gave me gift. Water kindness," she whispered. "I gave you gift. Peace." Her voice was soft, but it cut deeper than any blade. The final surge of light exploded through the chamber. Every alien machine collapsed, lifeless metal on the ground. The rumble of engines vanished. Silence spread across the battlefield. The war was over, ended by the sacrifice of one fragile girl. Smoke curled in the ruins, dust hung heavy in the air. Daniel held her close, his hands shaking. Her glow was gone now, her silver skin pale and still. Her eyes closed as if she had only fallen asleep. The HFY soldiers looked on in silence. No one spoke, no one moved. They had witnessed something impossible, and they knew history had just been rewritten. Daniel's throat burned, his heart hollow. She had carried a secret strong enough to save humanity, but the cost was her life, and he was left holding the weight of her sacrifice. He looked at the sky through the broken ceiling. The stars shone bright, cold and distant. Yet one star seemed brighter. And Daniel whispered, "You're still out. There." The soldiers finally turned away, climbing out of the ruins. But Daniel stayed a moment longer. He placed the empty bottle of water beside her still hands, a reminder of the gift that had begun everything. As silence wrapped around him, One thought burned in his mind. She had not been weak. She had not been helpless. She had been the strongest of them all, and her secret had given humanity a future. Daniel stood, his rifle heavy, but his heart heavier. The war was over, but the memory of her would never fade. Every victory would carry her name. Every peace would echo her sacrifice. And so the weak alien girl became humanity's greatest savior.